Hello and welcome to Practical Knife Reviews. Today for you we have another Martini knife, and I have a few more Martini knives that we'll show you in the future. This one is one of the few, do I have any other? This might be the only Martini knife that I have in stainless steel. This is the Marttiini Condor Skinner knife. The Condor series of knives from Martini are just their black rubberized handled knives with stainless steel blades. I don't think that they have any carbon steel blades in their Condor series. Actually, they might have a timberjack in their Condor series. I guess I should have probably looked that up. But most of their Condor series are with these black rubberized handles and just plain old stainless steel, really soft. It's only hardened to 54 Rockwell. So you're unlikely to ever break this blade, but it'll lose its edge pretty quick, but it's also super easy to sharpen as well. Leather sheath. This is black leather. Smells good. And it's one of your traditional Finnish style deep carry, good retention. It's not going anywhere. Yeah, and it's a nice looking knife. And let me tell you, it's sharp. This is probably one of the sharpest knives that I had come out of the box. Can you see that hair on the blade there? You looking at it? Right there, right in front of my finger.
Oh, yeah.
See that hair?
Yep.
Yeah. That was just right off. I mean, can you see that hair?
You're blonde.
Yeah, but can you see it?
I can see it.
Okay, it's sharp in any case. Now I have a bald spot on my wrist. Okay, but in any case, it's like the other Martini knives that we had where it's a stick tang. Pretty much the only difference between this and the other ones is, one, it's not your traditional puukko style knife with a completely flat back and yeah, a flat cutting edge as a Skinner. This has a little bit of a belly, extra belly to it, but it also has this little hump in the back. But like all of the other Martini knives, this is a stick tang. So I'll stick that there, set the sheath down, grab the paper, and I'll mention, listeners, we're using a new microphone setup today, so if it sounds any better, let me know. Okay, we'll see if it's sharp on paper. Well, considering that I just shaved my arm with like very little resistance, yes, it's sharp. And I should mention before I forget, Scandi grind, just like all the other Martini knives that we've looked at and that we will continue to look at. Let's look at it with cardboard. So here we have just some regular old corrugated cardboard. Very little effort. It's really sharp. But like I said, this is just a... they did specify once what their stainless steel is, but if you look at their website, it's just listed as stainless steel. But it's generally like a 420 series stainless steel. Nothing special. It's not particularly hard. 54 hardness is not very hard, but you'll be able to sharpen it super easily. In any case, you typically wouldn't use a knife like this for batoning, but what the heck? We'll baton with it because that's what we do on this channel. Except the usual baton is out in one of the shelters in the woods behind the house. So I'm using just another piece of, this is white oak that I'm using to beat through this piece of pine. Now the handle's pretty comfortable. It's just that checkered rubberized handle. Now this is not really the ideal piece of pine to try to beat through because it's got a twist in the grain. But
can't be picky on our pines.
No. Like I said, hardened to 54. I've lost most of the tip in there. Hardened only to 54, you're not really going to have to worry about breaking this because it is so soft, but as you can see, more of it's come out on this side. So I got to try to get it deeper into there so I can hit on the tip. There it is. And yeah, not really the most ideally suited knife for batoning, as I've said, but you certainly can do it. That's pine. That's a soft wood. Let's try it on red oak, which, as I always say, is the hardest wood that we have in our forest here. So again, this is not really an ideal setup, using a skinning blade on oak with just a random piece of wood instead of my usual baton. But if you were out stuck in the woods with this knife on a hunting trip and you got stranded and it was cold, you certainly could split the wood. Okay, now let's do some feather sticking. This is where these Scandi grown knives really do excel. If I can get it just right. Now I'm trying to keep it shallow here. I'm not really putting any effort at all into that in terms of force behind it to try to get these feathers to come up. Really all of my attention is being paid to staying nice and shallow here to keep these feathers relatively thin. These aren't the prettiest, but they're not bad. And like I said, very little effort. The one thing I'll mention, 90-degree spine, which means that you can use it for scraping or perhaps a ferro rod, but I wasn't expecting that. But it's not the most comfortable on the hand, as well as there's some jimping here on the back of this ferrule. Also not the most comfortable jimping because it's so narrow, but it's not uncomfortable, it's just not the most comfortable. Now let's look at feathers on the red oak. Again, the hardest wood that we have in our forest here. And once again, not the most comfortable for my thumb. I can do a hammer grip and it makes it a little bit more comfortable, but I tend to not like doing a hammer grip for feathers sticking quite as much. But very little effort to get these feathers, and they're okay feathers. They're not the best that I've ever made, but not bad. And for a knife that's again shaped for skinning, you're probably not looking for feathers sticking too often. But yeah, that's the quick look at the Marttiini Condor Skinner knife. I guess I should mention that if you look online for this knife, you'll be able to find it $22 to $25. Generally, I got it for maybe half that price because somebody was selling it on eBay but like spelled the name wrong or something like that. So I got this for like half the price that you normally would. But if you wanted this knife, you could find it for like $22 to $25 generally. Ma, what do you think of this before we take it inside and look at it more close?
I love Martini knives. I like the profile of this knife. Not a huge fan of the black kind of rubbery looking handle. I do like the black leather case. I think it did great with the feather sticking and okay with the batoning, but not as good. Of course, we're missing our fantastic baton, which is in our custom-made rustic smokehouse in the back.
Yeah, and I'll just mention again that I'm not nearly as much of a fan of their stainless steel at Martini as I am of their carbon steel. Their carbon steel's 80 CRV2, which is roughly the equivalent of 1084, but a little bit better edge retention perhaps, and even perhaps a little bit tougher than that because of some of the additives that are in there. But I love 80 CRV2. I'm not crazy about the stainless, but I got this at a price that I couldn't really pass it up. So that's our look out here, and we'll be back inside with a closer look at this in just a second.
Doing the apples?
No, not with this. And we're back on Practical Knife Reviews. We're still looking at the Martini, made in Finland, which I didn't mention before, Condor Skinner. Let's get this light in an area where we can actually see it. There we go. There, as you can see, it's a nice and shiny stainless steel blade. Like I said, quite soft. They say that they harden it to about 54 Rockwell, which is very soft. We've got our rubbery textured handle here, 90-degree spine, Scandi edge. It's a stick tang and this black leather sheath. And there's the button right here allows this to twist around so it's not too fixed in place on your belt when you wear it. In any case, I'm going to take some measurements of it here, since there's not a whole lot to look at in terms of fit and finish. You can see where the ferrule was cast, but it's not raised or anything. It's not uncomfortable. You can see where the polymer of the handle was pressed, but again, doesn't feel like anything. So overall, the fit and finish is quite decent. Mom, why don't you talk about it while we measure this?
I normally don't like that red or the black polymer handles, but it actually works really well with this knife, and I love the profile of the blade.
Yeah, that skinning blade is a nice wide shape. It's not for every purpose, but for this it works quite all right. We're looking at 8 3/4 inches overall, roughly. In terms of blade length, we're looking at 4 1/4 inches overall, 4-inch cutting length. Let's get a weight measurement, if I can pick that up. And get this into frame. Turn that on, move the lights out of the way so you folks can see the numbers. All right. So we are looking at 102 grams, or with the sheath 149. 3.6 ounces, or with the sheath 5.3. Not much else to say. I think we covered it outside more or less. It's a made in Finland Martini knife. I've said it several times. I'm not as big of a fan of their stainless steel as I am of their carbon steel. I'm a much bigger fan of the 80 CRV2 carbon that they use rather than this 420-ish grade stainless that's really soft. I see the purpose for it. It's incredibly stain resistant. It's very easy to sharpen, and it comes unbelievably sharp. Just about the sharpest knife out of the factory that I've had. But yeah, I've used their stainless steel knives before, and I'm just not quite as impressed with the stainless as I am with their carbon. But overall, it's not a bad knife. You can get it, like I said, between $22 and $25 if you look around. I'll put some links in the description box. I got it for, like I said, about half that on eBay about, 6 years ago or something like that. Any final thoughts, Ma, before we close this one up?
No, definitely would be one of my favorite knives.
All right, so that's it for the Marttiini Condor skinning knife. Thanks for watching. We'll be back with another episode of Practical Knife Reviews very soon.